Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Catch Your Breath podcast. I'm Inga, your homeschool wellness coach, and I am so glad that you're here. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I really do think you're in for something good. And if you've been here before, then you know how we do things. You know that we don't rush through it. You know, we tell the truth, we breathe. And so I just want to thank you for coming back. This week, we're going a little deeper. Last week, we talked about homeschool truths that we would only admit to a friend. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, then go back and listen to the one right before this one, because we started what we're talking about there in that episode. But after I recorded it, I realized there was more. From more conversations with moms, from just going through the day, I just realized that there are a lot more truths. And obviously, I cannot go through every single truth that we feel, but I do feel like there are more things that I would say if I was sitting across from someone that I trusted. And so we're going to just talk a little more about that, if you will. But before we get into that, let me check in with you. How was your weekend? How was your week? How was your weekend? I really pray that you have had some time to find someone safe to be honest with, to say those things that have been sitting there inside your heart, inside of your mind, instead of just carrying it quietly. And I know that sometimes we can feel as if when we say these things, we are complaining or we are whining or we don't trust God to handle it. And I want you to let go of that guilt right now, because just speaking it, there's a difference in whining about it and complaining about it and just living there, as opposed to just naming it out loud and saying, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and giving it to God, praying about it, talking to a friend and you guys praying about it. It's not just one of those things where you say it and you complain and you move on. It's like, oh, I feel better from complaining about it. But it's really getting to the source of it and admitting to ourselves what we've been feeling inside and finally just saying it out loud. And so I'm already getting into the episode, but before we do that, I want to know if you've taken a moment to breathe today, this week. So if you haven't, let's do that right now. So just sit up. Take in a deep breath for 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5. And 6. And if you need to pause and do that again, even a couple of times, then just do it. That is why we're here. I want us to truly practice catching our breath in what we talk about, but literally in doing it and not just talking about it. All right? So let's continue the conversation now that we have had a moment to catch our breath. All right, you ready? Let's dive in. So let's just sit with this for a minute. Because the truth is, when I think about some of the things that I would only say to a trusted friend, it's not that it's the crisis level things. And obviously I'd say those things, but it's just those things that I want to be honest about, but it's scary to say because you don't know if the people who don't truly know you, who don't know your heart for homeschooling, for your kids, for what you're going through, what they'll think about you. Are they going to judge you? Are they going to feel like you don't really want to do this? And sometimes are they going to give you this unsolicited advice of get back in school or put them back in school, as I've said before. So as I was just thinking about this, there were a lot more truths. And as I've said, there's going to be even more truths probably than what we're going to talk about today. But, as I told you, sometimes I just start jotting them down. And these are the ones that came to me. And because I don't want to do a part 3, I'm going to try to get through as many of these as I can, because I want to speak to your truth. And even if I don't say it, I hope I get kind of in the ballpark, because I really want us to normalize having these thoughts, feelings, whatever it is. And not that to say that it's right or wrong, because it's really not what it is. It just is. It's what we feel, it's what we're experiencing. And sometimes, as I said before, we just have to say it, get it out. And there's power in the words. I don't think that we need to sit in it, but we need to at least acknowledge it because then we can move on from it. So, one of the ones I was thinking about is sometimes what stresses me or stretches me really is not just the teaching, it's really the leading. It's realizing that the emotional tone of the day often runs through me. So when I wake up in the morning, I really have to check myself to see how am I doing? Because if I'm grounded, then things feel grounded. But if I'm off, everyone else feels off. And I have to be okay because if they're not okay, I have to be able to regulate that, to support them in that. And it's not a matter of controlling, it's just the awareness of the influence that I have in the home. And sometimes I feel the weight of being the one holding the entire vision. And I know that if I lose the clarity for a minute, it can feel like everything else is wobbling. And that is a constant responsibility. Sometimes is where the overwhelm and the stress comes from. There are days that I notice that I'm always on. Have you ever felt that? And so that's a lot of times when I'm talking to moms or clients and we talk about your thing, finding your thing, giving yourself an opportunity to relax, it's just hard because even when we sit down, we're still listening, we're still tracking, we're still anticipating, we're thinking ahead or we're reflecting. And it's not necessarily that we don't want to do, and sometimes we don't want to do that, but it's just a reality that that is what is happening. And so we can notice that. And I think even that awareness of, okay, that's why it's so hard for me to relax is helpful because we start really putting ourselves on trial and be like, something's wrong with you. But just to recognize, okay, well, it's really hard because I'm always on. So it's almost a matter of what do I need to be able to turn off? How do I press pause on things so that I can focus. Sometimes we want to say that sometimes I realize that I haven't had a full, uninterrupted thought to myself all day. And that we feel like I don't even know that I needed one until the house gets quiet. And so that's where, for me, the struggle comes. I don't know if that happens with you. That's why sometimes it's hard for me to go straight to bed at night, but even though I'm extremely tired, because that's the time when the house is quiet. And then I can just kind of sit with myself and sometimes be productive, but then sometimes not be productive. Just like look at a show, binge watch something, or just chill out. And there's sometimes a lot of guilt in that because I'm like, I should just go to bed. But just being able to realize like that's the reason helps me to understand why. And not necessarily that it solves anything, but at least it brings awareness to say, okay, what do I need to do about this? If there's anything to do about that. And I don't have to feel guilty about it. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm thinking 3 weeks ahead while everyone else is just thinking about today. So whether it's co-op, whether it's supplies, whether it's deadlines, whether it's rhythms, whether it's curriculum, whether it's dinner, whether it's events that are coming up, it feels sometimes like I'm holding the future while managing the present. Have you ever felt like that? Where you're like, yes, all this stuff is happening here and I'm present for the here as much as I can be, but I can't just sit here because I got to think about everything that's coming after that. And even I think where the overwhelm and the stress can come from is thinking about how what is happening now affects what is happening later. And sometimes I'm the keeper of everyone's information. Who struggles with what? Who needs encouragement? Who's behind? Who's bored? And the truth of the matter is, if we're honest with ourselves, and that's where I was just like, okay, that mental tab is always open somewhere in the background. I don't know about you, but my kids will crack up sometimes if they look at my screen on my computer or even on my phone with all of the tabs that are open. And that to me feels like what's going on in my brain. It's like there's all these simultaneous tabs that are open and I'm just switching between tabs in my brain. Like, okay, wait, okay, remember that one. Okay, do that one. All right, let's get that one. So even if I'm cooking dinner and I have the dinner tab open, I'm still thinking about, all right, so what time is this going to be over? Because I got to get this person to this place and we got to do that. Oh, yeah, I got to buy that uniform. Oh, yeah, I got to schedule that thing. We got to do the SATs. Okay, that's coming up. Like it's just all of these tabs going on at the same time. Have you ever felt that way? I'm hoping that this is not me, not just me. There are moments that I don't doubt homeschooling at all, truly. But I doubt sometimes my capacity on that particular day. And for me, that's different because I know that this is not a crisis of my calling because I know that I've been called to do this. I am 100% grounded in it. Even on those days when I'm like, I can't do this, it's not necessarily like I can't do homeschooling because I don't know homeschooling is the right thing. It really is just the fatigue of all these things that I've just talked about and all the things that are going on. And I think sometimes being able to say that in a safe space to that safe person, to that friend, so that they know, like, I'm not questioning homeschooling or if I should do it. It's just right now, it's the capacity today capacity, sometimes even just in that moment, and being able to say that. And yes, take it to God. This is not about like you don't have faith to take it to God, but it's at least recognizing that so that when you feel that, it doesn't become a verdict to if you're homeschooling or not, but it really is about like in that moment, the capacity. Because I feel like if you can deal with the capacity in that moment, it's easier than dealing with the totality of homeschooling. And even more importantly, if you know that it's not homeschooling that is up for debate, then we don't even try to decide, should I do it or not? It's like, that's already a given. I feel like when I think about this, I think about marriage. For me, whether I'm going to be married to my husband from day to day is not up to for debate. It just never is. This is my husband for the rest of my life. That's it. And so when something happens, when something's hard, I don't even need to go and be like, like if I feel like I can't do this, because, sometimes you feel that way. It's not a matter of I can't do this, so I need to get a divorce. It's just like in this moment, this thing is happening. I need to either deal with the emotion, deal with the issue, deal with the conflict, whatever that is. But I don't have to keep going from day to day or year to year or season to season trying to figure out if I'm going to stay with my husband. And for me, that's how I feel about homeschooling. Like it's not up for debate whether or not I'm going to homeschool. But there are just some times when it's just hard, when it's challenging, when it's difficult, and I need to deal with that and the doubt of like, oh, can I do that today? Like, really, what is that? Is just the fatigue of whatever it is, not the decision about if I'm going to continue to do that. The next one is that sometimes when something goes wrong, and this one might just be a me. So if this is not you, you can tune out for a second. But sometimes when things go wrong, I immediately turn inward and I start going to like, what did I miss? What should I have done differently? I start going through, like, that's just the way I am, an overthinker. And so because I feel like the locus of control is me, I'm always going inward. Like, what did I do? What did I say? What could I have said differently? What could I have done differently? All that stuff. And what I've had to do since I realized that I was an overthinker, since like I understood that just because I had those thoughts do not mean that they're true, I've had to remind myself that not everything is a reflection of my leadership or my parenting, or even as I was talking about the influence that we have, that I'm not holding myself captive to perfection, because that's where to me perfection kind of sneaks in, because it's like, well, I need to do everything perfectly or everything's going to fall apart. And that's not the case. Sometimes I feel the gap truly between the mom I want to be and the mom I was this afternoon. And I have to decide whether I'm going to grow from that or I'm just going to sit in it, because I'm not perfect. I am human. I'm going to make mistakes. And that's kind of connected to the one I just said before about me turning inward, is that I have this desire for the type of mom that I want to be, and sometimes I fall short of that. And I have to not sit in that, meditate on that, beat myself up about that, let the guilt fall in, and because that can really paralyze us. And so I know that as we have those thoughts, that we have to say, all right, if we take the time to reflect on it, what could I have done differently? I'll try to do that and then move on. And not because it's like, well, whatever, and we're just callous, like, well, that just happened. But that if we sit in it, the longer we sit in it, the more it allows for guilt. And so we have to be able to say, all right, I'm going to grow from this and I want to do something differently. And for me, a lot of times it's, especially if I feel like an apology is warranted with my kids, going and apologizing to them, saying what I need to say, helping them to understand what I need to do different, and then asking them for forgiveness and then asking God for forgiveness. And most importantly, after that, forgiving myself, like recognizing they have forgiven me, He has forgiven me. And the hardest person to forgive is really me because I'm holding on to it. And then just being able to say, okay, I have to let it go. Another simple one for me is sometimes I pray for patience and then I'm irritated that I still have to practice the patience. I'm like, you know how they talk about all the time. You hear, like, be careful if you practice for patience. You pray for patience because then you're going to have situations that cause you to have, that you're going to have to require the patience. And so I have to change that mindset to be like, okay, this is practice. So if I want to have my patience grow, I got to practice that. And I would say that's probably the thing that we don't want to practice. I don't want to practice patience because it's challenging. It's hard. And it's like the situations that are happening, you're like, no, I don't want to do that. All right. The next one is that sometimes I want to be cared for the way that I care for everyone else. Now, this is the hard one to say because it sounds and it feels so unbelievably selfish, but it really is a matter of like, man, I want to go all out. Even, like not just dramatic, like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe you're going through that, but just the noticing, just the being understood. Like I say all the time, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. That's simple. And a lot of times for us as moms, we see, we hear, we understand without the other person, our families, our children, our husbands having to give us a full explanation because we're just kind of in tune. And sometimes you just want that where it's like, you don't have to say anything. It's like, oh, this is what's going on. Hey, whatever it is, I don't even know what it is, but I know that that was one where it's like, sometimes I feel protective of this work because I'm in it all day. And it's hard sometimes to explain the decisions that you make, all of the decisions, there are so many little decisions that you make in a day that you have a plethora of little decisions, even more than the big ones. And sometimes it's hard to explain decisions when you're the one living inside of the rhythm of them because you're just moving through it all the time. And even as you think about that brain fatigue, you don't even realize the amount of that. Sometimes when you're exhausted at the end of the day and you think about, like, you expect the exhaustion to be based on, we went this place, we ran that place, we did that thing, and you're just exhausted. Sometimes it's just the amount of decisions that you have to make. And sometimes you just want to say that to somebody, like, I don't know if you know that this is just, it feels that way. And even just this, like, you just don't want to sound like you're whining, but you just feel you are experiencing this and you want to say those things. Sometimes I miss the ability to clock out, to close all those tabs that we just talked about, and then rest without planning tomorrow in my head. And that one is very related to the other one, but it's a matter of, okay, how can I move from right now, today, and all the things and just plan for tomorrow enough? Because I'm still doing a lot of reflection on the stuff that happened. And it's just, that one just feels like a lot sometimes because it is a lot. And the Bible talks about that there's enough worry for today, and so you don't need to also be worrying about tomorrow. And I think there's a matter of planning that happens that is required of the next day that is hard to do because you're still stuck in not necessarily the present of like, this is what I'm doing, but really the mistakes and the pressure of getting everything right for the next day. And so sometimes that's really, really hard. This one is, I think, one that most of us as good wives, and I say that with a little bit of quotation marks, and I don't mean to be sarcastic, but truly, I think that sometimes we wish that our husbands could feel the weight of a Tuesday at 10:47 a.m. without us having to translate it. And then at the same time, there's this guilt because we know that he's carrying things that we don't see either. And so it's like the moment you feel that, like, I wish he could, then you have the guilt instantly of like, well, I know that he's got a lot going on and I don't, and like that, I don't really, I don't know that there's a solution except to really pray through that. But I think it's just a real thing to know that that happens, to acknowledge it, and to not allow the guilt of that thought or that feeling to really just take you out. A couple more. Sometimes I wonder, and this was kind of a big one to me that I don't even know that I would say, but one of the moms said to me, we kind of had an episode around this, and I think it's just a truth to maybe have a conversation with somebody trusted. It says, sometimes I wonder who I'm becoming in this season. And we wonder, am I growing or am I just managing? Am I expanding or am I shrinking? Like, who am I in this moment? Put your name into that. Who's Inga in this moment? Who is Cheryl in this moment? Who's Kelly in this moment? Who am I? And that to me is sometimes what can feel debilitating, in that we wonder, will I be will I be, who will I be when this whole thing is over? When they finally leave the home. And even as I am getting ready for my son to graduate and getting all the things together, I think about that a lot because I have less than a decade, which is crazy to me, left of homeschooling. And I wonder that sometimes, like, am I growing? Am I becoming? And who is that? Who am I becoming? And is it just, am I so much into the do that I haven't, that I look back and be like, okay, who are you? How are you? And I don't really have an answer for that, but I do think that that's one of the things that I know that many of us are kind of in that place with, but if we don't know where to put it, it's like, okay, I'll deal with that when I'm done with this. But it happens because the reality is sometimes I miss parts of myself that had nothing to do with what I'm doing now, with had nothing to do with being needed. And and simultaneously as I say that, I love, which I know you do too, I love being a mother. I love homeschooling. I love being a wife. I love all of those things. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, who was that person before? And there's growth and there's love and there's all those things. But I think just being able to think through all of that, ask those questions, have the conversation can help you to process. Because the truth is, and this is the place where I ended up with, and I always end up back at this place truly, is in the middle of all of that, in the middle of all of those truths, most often when I look around and think, I know that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that's why I say that there's tension there. Because the truth of it is, and I'm sure you will agree with this, none of this is regret. None of this is quitting. It's just the honest cost of the work that we are doing. And when we can say these things to a friend, it's not because we're asking to be rescued from our life. It's to not carry it alone. It's to let someone say, I know exactly what you mean, girl, to just put it out there, to normalize that you had the feelings. Because I think if we keep those feelings, those thoughts in our head, really it causes us to feel guilt because we have to hide that because we just, like I said, we don't know how people are going to take it. And I think that that's not what we are looking for. It is not complaining unless you make it complaining. It could really be grounding. And to me, I feel like mature friendships understand that you can love something deeply and you can still feel the stretch of it. So if any of what we just talked about sounded familiar, I hope that you will know that there's nothing wrong with you, that you can have those conversations. I hope that you will notice that you are carrying more than people realize, sometimes even more than you realize, so that when you're wondering, because I know sometimes it's like, what's wrong with me? What's going on with me? If you can just think about those things, it's like, oh, it's not that anything's wrong, because that's not the question. It's not wrong with me. It's just what's going on right now. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I experiencing? So that is your one thing for today. Instead of brushing off the feeling, the thought, the truth, acknowledge it. And as we said from part one, maybe say it out loud to someone safe. I love to think, and I'm going to say it to God. First, I got to say it to myself. Truly, I have to say it to myself to be able to bring it to Him. He already knows, but I need to say it to myself, and then I bring it to Him. And sometimes that's just enough for you. But if it isn't, then find someone safe to say it to. And you can help them to know I'm not asking you for sympathy. I'm not even asking you for applause because I've done anything amazing or that. I'm just asking for honesty. And we know that honesty keeps our heart healthy in these long seasons because we can be committed and we can be grateful and we can admit that this is asking something real from us. And all of that can exist at the same time. That it can, and that there's no guilt in that. And that's it. I just want to tell you that I'm grateful that we can have conversations like this. And I hope that you feel like you're being seen. You're being seen. You're being understood. To have not those pretty Pinterest perfect polished conversations, not the highlight reels that we're going to put out there, but the real ones. Because the truth is, in order for this long-term work to work, it requires honesty so that we can stay healthy in it. So, can I pray for you in the midst of this? Lord, I know that you see the parts of this that no one else sees. You see the leadership, you see the mental load, you see the emotional strength that it takes to show up day after day. You see the quiet decisions, you see the self-control that's required, you see the moments where she chooses patience even when she doesn't feel it. Lord, would you strengthen her today? Wherever she feels stressed, would you give her strength? Would you please remind her that awareness is not weakness, that it truly is wisdom? Would you help her to notice when she's carrying more than she needs to carry alone? God, would you bring the right friendship into her life, the kind where she can speak plainly and be understood? And God, we ask that you would give her endurance for the long season, clarity where she needs it, rest when she finds it, and protect her heart from believing that honesty equals failure or that it is complaining or that something is wrong with her for feeling what she's feeling. God, I just thank you for the work that she's doing. Even on the ordinary Tuesdays, we praise you and we lift you up. As always, God, give her peace that surpasseth understanding and give her joy, unspeakable joy. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen and amen. All right. I pray that this episode really blessed you, that it reminded you that you are never alone in the midst of this, and that it even gave you a desire to seek out the safe place. I hope you will share this with someone that you feel needs to be reminded of these truths and needs to be encouraged. And until next time, remember to take a moment to catch your breath.